This video demonstrates how to create a histogram, particularly for values that have the potential to be highly skewed. What I have here is some assay data, and in this column here I have all of the zinc values for several samples. What I want to do is take all those values and create a histogram showing me the distribution of values. So what I'm going to do is select that column and copy it and paste it to a new worksheet. Then I'm going to sort it by smallest to largest value. The smallest values are zeros, and for this particular analysis I don't want to see the zeros, so I'm going to remove them. So find all the zeros and just simply delete them, shift everything upwards. Also, I'm concerned that there may be non-numeric values, so text values in this list of data that I don't want to take part in the analysis. So since I've sorted from top to bottom, any of the text values fields should be at the bottom of the list, and here I have two, so I'll just select those and delete them. So now I've got some clean zinc assays to work with. Next step is I want to know what the minimum value is, record it here. And I want to know what the maximum value is and record it there. So I just take the values at the top of the bottom of the list. I get the min and the max. Now, for reasons I'll explain later, I'm going to want to transform these values by a certain amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a number 1 here, just 1, and then I'm going to write an equation that says take this value here and raise it to power of this and divide it by this. And then I'm going to do the same here, so I'm going to equal this value, the max, raise it to this factor here, and also divide it by that factor there. And so what that does is I can manipulate this factor. I can make it something small, and it will take that equation, translate these numbers into some new numbers, and that'll be useful later on. Down here, I'm going to write a new equation. It's just going to take the difference of the min and the max value that's been transformed and divided by 25. 25 is just an arbitrary number that I like to use for the amount of bins I want to see. Okay, now right here I'm going to write this equation. We'll take the minimum value and add to it the bin size. And that's going to mark the maximum of my first bin. I'm going to take this value and add to it the size of the bin, but this time I'm going to press F4 to lock the bin value. I'm going to send this equation down, copy it all the way down to here, and then I'm going to truncate. I'm going to truncate any bin that's greater than my maximum value. So actually I'll keep one that's greater than the maximum value, and then you get rid of this one. So now I've got these represent the maximum values of my, in this case, 26 bins that are in transformed space. So like I said, if I change this factor to a 0.1 instead of 1, I get some, I alter the values here. If it's 1, effectively 0 transformation, I get these values. Okay, so in this column, I'm going to back transform these values with this equation. I'll take this, and I'll multiply it by the factor, press F4 to lock it, and I'm going to raise it to the power of 1 divided by the factor. Press F4 to lock it. Copy that down. I'm going to format it because I'm actually going to use these values, formatted values, in my chart. Okay, now so everything's set up. I can commence the calculation of the histogram. So I'll go to the Data tab, go to Data Analysis, and then select the histogram option. Then I'm going to fill out this form. The input range is going to be all these zinc values. The bin range is going to be this array of values. And then the output, I want to put it right next to the bins. Okay. Okay, so now here is the histogram. I have the, for each of the bins, I have the count. But I have the count. What I want is not necessarily the count, but the percentage. So what I'll do down here is type in sum. I'm going to sum all these values up. And then for each bin, I'm going to just calculate the relative proportion. So that value divided by the sum. Press F4 to lock the sum. Make that a percentage. Copy it down. Okay, so now the frequency of each bin is reported as a percentage now instead of just a straight count. Okay, so I'm going to take these values, go to Insert a chart, 2D column chart. So there, now we have the graphical representation of the histogram. I'm going to right-click the histogram, go to Select Data. I'm going to edit the horizontal axis labels. And I'm going to use these as my labels. Watch the x-axis. Okay, so these are the zinc values for each bin. I'm going to give it a title, just call it zinc. Okay, almost done, except I don't like the way this looks. It's a very highly skewed distribution, and that makes this view of that data less useful than I'd like it to be. What I want to do is to de-skew it. It's highly skewed now. I want to de-skew the graph so that I can see more detail about what's going on in this lower grade range of these zinc values. So what I can do is use this factor here, and I'll reduce it. Say if I reduce it to 0.5, my bin values have now changed, but my histogram has not yet, so I need to rerun the histogram. Again, we go to Data Analysis, Histogram, accept the initial input parameters I put in before, confirm that I want to overwrite the old data, and then you can see my histograms changed, therefore my percentages have changed, and then my graph has changed, and I'm starting to see a little bit more of what's going on with my lower grade portion of the data. But I think I'm going to push this a little more, make that a smaller number, 0.1, rerun my histogram, and look at that. Now I can see two distinct populations coming through, maybe even a third. Let's push it just a little bit further, 0.01. That's usually about as low as I'll go. Run the histogram again. Okay, there we go. I can see three distinct distributions in the zinc population. By going through all this, I've got a better idea of what's going on, where the population breaks are in the data. So I'm going to call that done. Of course, I could keep going. I could go here, since I have a lot of assay data, I can move on to this column, which contains lead. Copy that, start a new page, and then continue with the process of making a histogram for lead as well. But we'll skip that for now. And so this is how to create a histogram for a bunch of values that have the potential for being highly skewed, and then it gives you some mechanisms for deskewing that data.